So I can't help myself. Just got a really interesting comment on my YouTube channel, and I always have to push back against this stuff because it's always really annoying to me, and it's the audio snobbery that sometimes goes on in our business, and you guys have probably run into it. And this version of the audio snobbery was somebody saying, one of the older videos I was talking with Trevor, one of our Sync Academy pros, and how I don't know if his process takes only an hour, but I know my mixing and mastering process usually takes an hour at the most. And that's if I'm being really slow, actually. I usually can get my mix and master within 20 to 30 minutes. I'm very, very fast because I already have my plugin presets. I adjust a few little things here and there. My rough mix already sounds great because I'm using the right samples. It's a well executed, well written track. So the mixing and mastering process for the most part has been a breeze in the last, quite a few years of my career just because I've been doing it for so long. But the comment comes in that says, you're only spending an hour on your mix and master. It's probably not good of a master then. And, my reply back to him was, I'm not trying to win a mixing and mastering an award, and I'm not trying to earn the business of other artists to say I'm a mixing and mastering genius and a professional, and you can pay me and I'll mix and master your music for you. That's not what I'm trying to do here. My entire point of going very quickly through my mastering process is to avoid burnout, right? To be able to increase the number of tracks that I can crank out on a weekly basis, and basically to get my tracks licensable, okay? I don't need them to be the best sounding track that's ever been heard by mankind. I don't need to get into all the weeds of, if you're going to release maybe a commercial track or if you're mixing a full orchestra or something like that. At least for the kind of music that I produce, it's pretty simple. It's pretty standard. If I'm using drums, I've been using these same drums for a long time. I know the plugins. I know how they work. I usually have everything EQ'd and compressed properly. If I'm using guitars, it's not like I'm using a guitar plugin for the first time and I don't know how it operates. I know it's dynamic. I know how it sounds. I know it works well. I know it doesn't. I know it really comes out in the mix. And this is just a process of trial and error and just continuing to do it, right? And so all of these things that I'm doing are basically like second nature to me, and I understand them so well. So by the time I get to the mastering process, it's literally like tick, 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 tick. All right, cool. We are good. We've checked off our boxes. We've got a nice stereo spread. I might boost that a bit. I might compress the overall mix just a bit to kind of tie things together so we don't have really loud, radical changes from maybe quiet parts to loud parts or for an impact. I don't want it to be too distracting, essentially. And maybe a little bit of an EQ boost here and there, or a little cut here and there if I have something kind of building up a little bit with some of my frequencies and depending on the key that I'm in, right? But these are all little tiny things that I do, and I don't get lost in the weeds. What I used to do was kind of follow the mindset of this commenter, which was, this isn't the best thing I've ever done. It's not the best thing I've ever heard. I'm really, I don't know if this is like going to win me any awards, essentially, because I think there's a couple of things that I could do better. And I would constantly mix and master and do it over and over again. So I know all of you guys have probably been there too, where you have mix 1.0 and then it's like, well, mix 2.0, and then that turns into mix final 3.0, and it's like, no, mix real final 3.3. And you have 18 different mixes on your track. And the problem with that is not that your track, and usually your mixes are getting worse, right? As it goes on, you think you're getting better, but then you listen to the first one, you're like, you know what? There was something about that first one that my 18th now is lost. And I've just basically overanalyzed this and overthought this. So I'm trying to push back against that kind of mentality because for me, it didn't work. Worrying about the fact, is this the best sounding mix I've ever heard in my life? Am I stacking up towards, am I comparing myself towards to an artist that has, a multi-million-dollar studio with, an engineer and a mastering studio that they work with? Should I be comparing my music to theirs? I think that's really unfair. Does that really do me any good? Not really, because I'll always feel inferior and I'll always feel like I got to do more, or I got to buy a new plugin, or I'll be lost, feeling like I don't measure up or add up to some other standard. The only standard you should be looking at in this business is the library that you're submitting to. If your tracks are on par or hopefully better meaning better produced, better, maybe a little bit louder, maybe a little bit better stereo spread, a really clean low end so it doesn't sound muddy, really realistic and lifelike instruments. So if you're playing rock, tracks, or you're producing rock tracks, your drums shouldn't sound like a drum machine. They should sound like a real live drummer performed them. Same with a guitar or strings. So adding a humanistic, lifelike element to your music. As long as your tracks are standing up to the tracks in the catalog of the library that you're working with, that's all that matters. That's really it. And if you want to be a perfectionist and take a month to complete one track because it's not perfect, it's not the best thing you've ever heard in your life, you will be taking a very, 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 very long time to get to anything significant in this business in terms of income and royalties and placements. And not only that, a library who's waiting on you for that long, like a whole year to get 10 tracks or 12 tracks to you or something because you're stuck in your perfectionism mode or you're wanting to impress audio snobs about how great your music is, you're lost. I mean, you will just never get ahead in this business. So perfectionism and worrying about whether or not your mixes stack up to the rest of the world's, you'll always lose with that mentality. At least that's my opinion, and that's not helped me at all to have that kind of mentality. For me, I don't think about, is this track perfect? Is it not perfect? I think, is this licensable? Meaning, is it acceptable for the library that I'm working with, for their clients, compared to the other music that they have available to them, compared to the other tracks on this album that I'm putting together for them? Is this conveying a very clear emotion, right? Is this music really conveying a sense of dread or doom, if that's what I'm going for? Or does it feel a little ambiguous? Does the music create a constant state of forward momentum and evolution and growth? Do I feel like I'm a little bit stuck sometimes, like the track is kind of looping a little bit too much? Do I need to maybe add a couple of instruments here and there, or some elements or some transitional effects so this track feels like we're kind of on an audio journey, like an emotional journey rising up? Am I staying consistent in the same emotion or mood the entire track, or am I going from happy and upbeat to really sad and dark? That doesn't work for libraries. They don't usually want anything drastic like that. They want tracks that are very consistent in one mood. So that's the kind of stuff that for me just helps me push forward and get this stuff done, and as soon as possible, right? Does a library care? Ask yourself this question if you're struggling with this. Do you think, I'll put it in the form of a question, how many times do you think a library has asked me how long I spend mastering my tracks? Never. Has never come up, okay? They don't care how I master my tracks, how long it took, what plugins I use, what my process is. All they know and all they can really evaluate is the mix and the track. And they hit play and they go, cool, this works. Let's put it in the catalog. Or they go, not really working, push back. So yeah, if you're only spending an hour on your master and you're getting a lot of rejections from your libraries, then that means you probably need to go back to reevaluating how you're mastering things and maybe try a different approach. So that would obviously clue you in that, yes, maybe 1 hour is not enough for you right now. You need to spend a little bit more time or completely just rethink how you're doing it. But if you're getting accepted, and of course, if you're getting placements and you're, like me, and you're spending 20 minutes, 30 minutes on your master, who cares? Who cares how long or how you're doing anything that you're doing, right? That's what's beautiful about this business is you get away from a lot of the nonsense of a lot of the music business, and you really just get to work and just do the thing that you really love doing. And that's what's been so awesome about this business is I am not lost in schmoozing world or trying to impress other people with what I'm doing or this. It's really cool that you can just sit down, put your head down, and just be lost and focused on your art and making music, and do it the way that works for you. I made a video a while ago. I showed you guys I play guitar upside down. I play guitar the wrong way. Does any guitar or does any library that I've sent my music to where I played guitar care that I play guitar the wrong way, right? Of course they don't. They just hear a guitar, and if it's recorded well and if the riff is cool and it's really blended well with the rest of the mix, thumbs up. This is a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of a business. It's either working or it's not. And however you get to, whatever your particular path is to get to working, just keep doing that and ignore these audio snobs that are completely their own worst enemy, and let them be their own worst enemy, right? They'll suffer with their own issues if they're constantly comparing themselves to that kind of a thing. Don't let them bring you down, making you feel less than because you don't do what the quote unquote professionals do. I'm a bit of a rebel that way. I say to hell with that. Just do what works for you. Just do it your own way and be proud of and the fact that you can find a way to start making money with your music in a way that suits you and suits your personality and suits your workflow. And to hell with everything else. Who cares if anybody doesn't approve of how you're doing things?